Hey, now we're live.
What up?
Hello.
Dang, that's the first time we've ever hopped on. There's already been 5 people watching. Your social media is growing, Sherman.
Right.
We'll just stream this, and you can give it to Old Town for a submission into their team. So
I'm big time now.
we're on the big stage, right?
Right.
That's awesome. So we got Sean, Todd, Scott, Chris Mitchell, and Sherman on with us tonight. We're going to be going over the Florida Kayak Bass Trail Championship that we just had on Orange Lake this past weekend. So we're going to wait for some folks to hop on, and then we'll start just kind of talking to each of the anglers, working our way from 5th down to our champion and highlighting some of the weekend on that. So, and we got a couple people already hopping on. I don't know who ADS is saying, "Let's go, Chris." Which Chris are we talking about? There's 3 of us on here. Well, 2 of them that are in the money. I don't count. I think the man upstairs was trying to send a message to Mr. Clutter. Fire day 1, lightning day 2.
Day 2 might have been my fault, but
Day 1, if y'all don't know, Clutter's battery caught on fire on his boat in the middle of Orange Lake. So it happened first thing in the morning.
And David put a great post out on the Facebook page about it. That was like hilarious.
I hope it wasn't one of our sponsors' battery.
It was, but it wasn't their fault. It was user error.
Gotcha.
There's certain things that are supposed to touch the terminals, right?
And that's moisture and metal. It is not ideal to have metal-to-metal contact, a wet metal-to-metal contact, I suppose. But, yeah, so we got, I think it's Chris Parker, one of your family members on here commenting, because I asked, who are you supporting? And they said all of them but Chris Parker.
That's good. That's nice. Good.
So,
That's piece of work.
Gotcha. So yeah, we got some folks on now. We're at around that 3-minute mark. So we can just go ahead and kind of kick off a little bit and do a quick recap of Orange Lake, right? So we had 17 anglers that showed up to fish the championship this year, and out of all 17 of them, they're all hammers in their own right. So it was going to be a difficult tournament to say the least. And the weather didn't really play a factor too well, did it, guys? It kind of hurt our chances there. So how did the weather impact you guys? If we can start with Sean and work our way down. How did the weather impact what your initial game plan was?
I think it just positioned them different. I practiced only one day. I actually went up Wednesday, and I ended up only fishing Thursday just because I found what I believe to be all good fish. Who's that squeaking? Is that your dogs, Bailey?
No.
It's mine.
No. Oh, is it?
It's my dog.
What's up with why are you going to my dog, Sean? Come on.
Oh, because I know what's at your house or was at your house, but only a few know about it. But no. The wind was blowing pretty good on Thursday, and I think it really just positioned my fish differently. The bigger fish weren't as at the bite come Saturday just because of the lack of wind, but the little fish were still feeding. So it was just a fact of finding where the bigger fish went. And it took me about till that afternoon on Saturday to find out where the big fish had moved to. And I kind of keyed in on them on Sunday. But yeah, like we were talking before we got on here, it was blowing, I don't know. I think Parker said at one point it was probably blowing 30 to 40 when the storms were blowing through, but it was a steady 15 on Thursday, which kind of threw a kink in my plan, but I had a lot of fish in my area, so it affected me, and it is what it is. But
yeah, I mean, we all kind of had to endure it as well. So it was it evened the playing field a little bit. So
well, it scattered my fish because they were keyed in on certain stuff like the hydro clumps, and when the wind wasn't blowing, it kind of scattered mine or stuck them in somewhere else. I don't know.
What about you, Mitchell? How was your initial game plan, and how did the weather kind of impact that?
Well, I had no game plan at all. I just went into it just
kind of blind, really. We went there like a week before, and we only spent like an hour on that lake because the wind was howling, and we just didn't feel like dealing with it. So went into it with no game plan at all, besides fishing or starting at one point and then just kind of winging it from there. The weather didn't really play any factor to me because I had nothing to go off of. So so
Do you feel like that helped you in a way, with you not really having any like, preconceived notions on like how the weather bite was when you did pre-fish versus then, or no?
I mean, I just kind of fished fish the moment, kind of fish what the elements are given, kind of deal. So I didn't know if the fish are moving in or out or anything. I just kind of deal with it.
Nice, man. Yeah, that's awesome. I like how you said fishing in the moment. That's good, because I think someone else down here fished in the moment as well and did pretty well. So, Chris Parker, what about you?
Me and Scott went out, was it Friday? Well, I saw Sean out there Thursday on the other side and didn't do much there. And then we went over to the west side on Friday, and I was cussing like crazy because we weren't getting anything. And then we kind of stumbled upon something small in the hydrilla, and then he broke off, and then I broke off, and I was finding them in the pads, pitching creature baits and pads and stuff. And that was, found that, and then a little something in the hydrilla. But yeah, like it was once the wind, come Saturday, the wind kind of stopped, and it didn't really hurt me, but it didn't help at the same time. Like, it was a blessing that the wind stopped on Sunday, because my power pole decided that it didn't want to work anymore, like in the middle of it. So I had to burn up about a half hour, 45 minutes on figuring out how I'm going to get this stupid thing up. But other than that, it was, I was just figuring it. They kind of stayed. The only problem with Sunday was it should have been Saturday. I thought more of the bluegill fishermen were going to mess with me on the pads, but come Sunday, it was just like literally every pad that I went to had a boat on it. And I kind of just stayed in the hydrilla the whole time after that, which, I mean, still kind of worked out, but it didn't really go with, that was the plan C, that I'll just stay in that gnat infested area.
Yeah. That is a true statement. The gnats were definitely out Sunday for sure. So.
They were terrible. Awful.
Yeah. I didn't need to eat my PB&J because I just snacked on gnats all day.
That's how I drank 19 bottles of water just because of that. Just to wash them down a little bit.
Yep. They taste good, though.
I mean, if that's what you're into.
What about you, Scott?
Kind of same as what Chris. I just didn't really have that plan in mind. I just kind of, like, me and Chris went out Friday, and then I just kind of said, I'm going to go take a look over on this side, area that reminded me a lot of Kenansville, which is a little bit more what I'm familiar to fish with. And I just started messing around there, and I started lights. Okay, where I'm going to be, and sat, rolled around. The wind, like I say, wasn't much, and bass boats just started in because they had a tournament. So they're all going over there. That means they know. So they go, okay, I'll wait it out. And they started leaving, and I got in there, started picking away, and I didn't get my fifth fish Saturday until 3:15. Sunday, same thing. Wind died out. I had my limit by 9, and just spent the rest of the day trying to upgrade, and just wasn't really going real great. So, but it went good enough. That's all that mattered to me. That's
right. You guys you and Chris and Scott, you guys both were pretty consistent with both days with catching an average. I think your averages were just in the over the 80-inch mark for both days. So that was pretty consistent, and able enough for you guys to catch a second and third place check. So really good job. You guys put in the work though too, and a little bit in the pre-fishing side, so that kind of paid off for you guys in the long run. So yeah, good job. So now we got the champion, the first ever Florida Kayak Bass Trail champion, and also claimed the big bass. So you guys are going to get to hear a little bit about that. Sean, is there any way you could possibly pull that picture of the fish up once we get to that point?
Yeah.
And kind of show it on the big screen. So that is the largest bass caught this year, and it came from our championship. So out of all regular season events and the championship, this was the largest bass caught. So Sherman, that's big enough of an introduction. So I'll just kind of, what you got, Todd?
It couldn't happen at a better time.
Exactly. So,
Correct.
and it couldn't. So we're kind of let you talk a little bit, Sherman, kind of tell us what your game plan was going into it. I know you made a Facebook post and kind of talked about it a little bit more, but we'd love to hear you share it on here as well. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, dealing with the weather and the game plan going into it, I was a lot like Chris Mitchell. I didn't really have one. Signed up really to support the club. I debated all week if I was even going to fish it or not because I was physically exhausted from work, and it was kind of a coin flip if I was even going to show up or not. So I didn't have any knowledge of the lake or how the weather would affect it or anything else going into it. So a lot like Mitchell, I just fished the moment that I was put in. And I ended up at the same ramp as Scott and Chris. So lucky enough, I landed a lucky break there. I guess I chose the right place. And same thing with them. I spent most of the day just kind of exploring though, because it was my first time at the lake. I didn't really know the layout, what kind of vegetation was there or water depths or anything like that. So I spent the day watching bass boats zoom all around, and it kind of explored, and I went out in the main lake and explored there, and I kind of keyed off what Scott said. I seen an area that reminded me of Kenansville as well, and I came back to it that afternoon, and I fished it the same way I fished that, and obviously put up a small limit Saturday there. And as soon as my limit was up Saturday, I quit fishing it, and I just went out looking for a different area, something different than what I was catching for Sunday. I didn't want to hook a fish that I could possibly use on Sunday. There wasn't any sense in it. So Sunday I had the same game plan. I planned on it being a slugfest left and right with these guys. I figured it would all be pretty tight within a quarter or half inch the way the fish were biting, but things turned around a little bit better on Sunday, but I ended up continuing with the whole story. You just wanted the weather stuff.
No, you're good. Keep on going.
No, Sunday I was out there. I did the same thing. I went to the same area I was at in Saturday. So obviously, I think Scott and Chris and I could all see each other. We were all 200 or 300 yards apart, kind of segregated in our own little areas. And I went back to the same spot I did on Saturday, and my first fish was a 12.5 inch for the day. And we had a little more breeze on Sunday than we did on Saturday. Saturday was a little more dead wind and just glass water. So that helped a little bit, I think, from my personal standings. I don't fish very well on dead calm water. But the breeze actually is what changed my whole pattern. I was measuring that 12.5, and the wind blew me off of the hydrilla that I was fishing. And when I looked down, when I took the picture, I seen a massive swirl underneath my kayak come out from a small little tiny patch of hydrilla that was out in the main boat lane. And I thought, okay, that was something that I've seen in the past on a few different lakes, that the bigger ones will key on just a few sprigs and stay away from the mats. And that's actually where the boats and the kayaks were all sitting on top of. So they were sitting on top of the fish, fishing in. So I threw over to a sprig to my left and ended up with a 19.5. So I just went down that little cut looking for just sprigs in the middle of the cut, and every one I tossed to had an 18 plus on it.
That's
So
nuts.
that was basically just that one moment that I noticed one swirl, and it changed the whole tournament. So
Wow. the paying attention to those little fine details and things out of the corner of your eye can really pay off when you apply it. So
It is. It's the small things that ends up separating a tournament most of the time.
yeah, it's funny that you said the small kind of twigs or hydrilla stems that are out from the main. I caught 2 of mine on Sunday on that same little thing. I didn't see a swirl, but I saw something kind of bust like the bait earlier in the morning. I was like, I'm going to go back to that. I was on the opposite side of it. I went back to it and I tossed it on there and I caught it 18.5. So they were definitely like that, staged like that all across the lake for sure. Cause I caught a couple of mine that's in that same manner. So yeah, that's awesome. But well, good. Well, Sherman, we'll get back to you here in a minute. All right.
All right.
So don't go nowhere. Don't leave
All
us.
right.
We're going to get back to you. So Sean, kind of like what we just kind of talked about a little bit and expanding on that. What were your expectations coming into the championship and how did that game plan kind of come to fruition for you? This is your first top 5 for the trail this year. So how did that go?
Yeah, I mean, my expectations were pretty high just because I had some experience from last time I was here that I just kind of went and expanded on because we fished here probably 3 or 4 years ago in a tournament, and that area held fish, kind of a community hole too in certain areas. I was away from the community hole, and well, like I said during practice, I put a screw lock on a punching setup and a speed worm setup, and that was kind of my 2 pre-fishing baits. And I had a frog on first thing in the morning. That's the only thing I had a hook on. And the only thing I hooked up with was like a 3-foot gator, like right as the sun was coming up. But I realized real quick the top water wasn't working for me. What I was doing, I like to throw a frog, and I threw a frog about the first hour of practice, and they weren't coming and eating it. And if I had a way to fish, I'd prefer to fish with a swim jig or a frog. But what I found was during practice, like I said, I threw a speed worm out there, and at first I was targeting like clumps, like wind blown side clumps, and I'd fish the backside. But they were kind of sitting off to the side. I let the speed worm sink down there, and as soon as like 2 cranks in, I'd have one bite it, and I was shaking them all off. I felt good weight on all the fish that I was hooking up with or having bite my lure. I had one almost spool the whole line. I just wanted to see how long it would hold on. It took nearly my whole spool of line off. And I had probably, I don't know, 20, 25 bites on Thursday. And that's kind of what made me content. I went to another lake and just laid on them. You know, I went to the campground lake and caught a bunch of 20s for our monthly tournament. And I know
we have
Sherman,
something we need to add it to about that monthly tournament.
Yeah, I know Sherman and John were clowning on me, thinking I was setting the hook on all my fish at Orange Lake, which I was completely at a different lake. No, but
also Sherman forgot to put a certain identifier in his photo. So
yeah. Bailey let me know about that today. I was like, why isn't Sherman moving up the leaderboard right now?
Yeah,
it was just a simple mistake. I was shaking and too excited.
Yeah, fair enough.
Hey, Sherman, I'm surprised that you even took the picture. I wouldn't even submitted the picture. I don't think I would have been shaking. I would have FaceTimed my wife, my mom, everybody to show them the fish, and probably completely forgot about taking a photo. So
yeah, no, but
that's awesome.
No, but like I was saying, Saturday morning, I had Thomas pretty close to me, and I ended up going to I had 7 waypoints marked, and all the fish were busting there, but I couldn't get them to bite anything but a wacky rig on a spinning rod, and I ended up catching 4 pretty quick on a wacky rig. I think one was on a fluke, and it took me a little while to get my 5th fish just because I was dealing, like I said, all the small fish wanted to bite, none of the big ones. And I didn't get any upgrades till late in the day when that storm blew in. And what keyed me in on a Sunday, I was joking with Mitchell that the swim jig was going to be in play and I was going to crush them. But I caught 2 on a swim jig real late off a pad edge. They kind of pushed out to the edge when that wind started blowing. And I caught 2, and I had like a 5 or 6 pounder blow my jig like 3 feet into the air, and I was like, I finally my jig pattern's going to set up. And Sunday started off pretty quick. Like I said, I made a mistake. I actually made it a 21.75, and I had to have Bailey go in and update it to 20 3/4. But really, it was downsizing my worm. I was throwing a full size Magnum speed worm. I went down to like a 5-inch striking. What's that striking swimming worm called? The cutter worm.
We call it the clutter worm.
The clutter worm. Yeah, I ended up downsizing to a 5-inch clutter worm Saturday. And do you want to keep on going to Sunday? Because I'll tell you real quick. Sunday was, I caught a big one first thing Sunday morning, and I lost, I don't know, 3 big fish on the swim jig, which hurt me pretty bad. It probably would have got me in second place. I don't think I would have caught up with Sherman. But late in the day, I mean, when I say late in the day, it was like 10:30, 11:30. I threw a speed worm out there on a weighted hook because I was swimming it through the hydrilla. But I went back out to these dollar pads and I threw my speed worm out there, full size Magnum green pumpkin magic speed worm and chocolate milk. And I set my rod down and grabbed a drink of like Powerade or whatever. And when I picked it back up like 30 seconds later, I had a fish on it. And so I got that fish in. Then I cast my worm back out there, let it sit for like 45 seconds, just dead stick in it. Another one swam by, took my line, set the hook. And I worked that pattern for like 12 fish. Nothing big. I made a couple of small upgrades, but they just wanted it sitting still, and I just could never get on better quality fish. So I caught a ton of fish on Sunday. The wind helped. Whenever the wind blew, it set them up to get a bite on the swim jig. But a bait I normally pretty good with landing fish on. I wasn't good on Sunday, which kind of hurt. But I found a little something. It just didn't pan out. But that was about the extent of my day.
Well, good. No, thanks for that rundown. That's awesome. You're very knowledgeable. I would not be able to talk like that. I just throw a bait somewhere and hopefully catch a fish. Yes, that's awesome.
Same here.
Right. Like I said, well, I was going to add something to it. All my fish that were up shallow in the hydrilla all pulled out towards the main lake, and I pulled my live scope out just to look. I had it turned on maybe 10 minutes the whole tournament on Saturday and Sunday.
I was going to say you use live scope on Orange Lake. How did that work?
Yeah. So in pad fields, I put in perspective mode and shine it around. The fish were they weren't up in the hydrilla. They were moving in and out of the pads, and they were constantly on the move. And when the wind blew, it would position. I had 7 waypoints. It would position them right on those waypoints, and I just made racetracks. It was like a 1.5 mile racetrack that I ran all day long. And whenever the wind was blowing, I'd go hit those key spots and the fish would be there. And like I said, I didn't capitalize well on Sunday, but it's kind of what I did.
Nice. Well, good, man. Thanks for sharing that. We'll post all the locations of where he caught his fish on Facebook, so you can. I'm just kidding. All right, good job, Sean. I appreciate. Do what now?
You can have my waypoints.
It's an open book, so you can ask me where we fish. We'll tell you. But no, I appreciate you sharing that, and congratulations on a top 5 finish. I know you kind of struggled throughout the regular season, and we're kind of frustrated with yourself, but obviously you put in the work, and you went up to Orange Lake and you got 5th place. So good job, man.
It's the bona fide. Once
It's
he
the
pulled the
bona
bona fide out,
It is the bona fide. I was going to make a joke about that because Sherman was in his orange big water, and I was like, maybe Todd jinxed me. Maybe I should have brought out the Old Town matched up. But Todd talked me into fishing out of the bona fide because I've been slaying some big ones out of it ever since I pulled it out of the garage. I had an epic morning at Toho one day. I've had a few epic days. I think I had like 107 inches by like 9:30 on Toho. And that was like 224s. So
nice.
It's been treating me well. So I'm going to ride it out for a little while longer until it dries up.
Good. And now we have Mr. Chris Mitchell, who came in a close 4th.
Yes.
So Mitchell, if you want to kind of explain your kind of thought process and how your day 1 and day 2 went, and were you surprised at how well it went for you based off of our pre-fishing extravaganza?
Hold on, before Mitchell gets going, I would like to talk about his day 1 start. He started off playing fireman,
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, I was gonna start off with that. Yeah, that was interesting. So what?
Real quick, Chris Mitchell, we appreciate what you did there too, by the way.
Yeah.
That just shows how much you a true friend. So I'll let you kind of go and kind of express that. But again, that's what this sport's all about, is what you kind of did and showcased on Saturday. So
yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna leave a guy out there to catch on fire, so I'm gonna go help him out. So I just started the day, like I said before, I had no plan. The only plan I had was looked at Google Maps and said I'm going to start at this point. And plus, I saw a bunch of boats run there the week before when we went out an hour or whatever we were out there for. So I saw a bunch of boats over there. All right, I'm going to start at that point. And it turns out that I was sitting there with Thomas, but Thomas moved on pretty quick after lines in. I stayed around, fished this point for a while. Then I see Chris Clutter crossing the lake doing like 120 mile an hour in this kayak somehow, and all of a sudden it's just a dead stop. I'm like, maybe he has something out there in the middle of the lake. Maybe he has something that nobody knows. And I get a call from him. He's like, my battery's on fire. And so I'm like, what? So I run over to him, make sure he's okay. He got it out by the time I got to him. But yeah, something connected with this terminal. Long story short, he's fine. He's probably got a blister on his finger now for trying to take off the bolt. But so I stayed with him for the rest of the day just to make sure he is going to be okay with the battery. Somehow the battery is still fine and still working. So stayed with him. We went to his spot. So this is not my spot. I had no credit for this area. So I just stayed with him to make sure he's okay. And I just fished his waters. So I'm going to say thank you to Chris Clutter for that. But yeah, so we just started fishing around his area, and it took me a while to get used to where everything is and how deep the water was and how the fish were reacting. And then once I found out a certain little thing that they liked, that's when I started catching fish around, I think it's like around 9-10 o'clock, and the bite kind of stopped around 12. They just wanted a swimming worm and a chatterbait. I just swim like the speed worm, just swimming it, and then a chatterbait, just kind of switching between the two, see when I get bit the most. And that was my day one, just swimming that, going in circles, doing all that. And then that 20-inch fish I caught, my biggest one on day one, was just randomly punching an edge. And I tried punching for the rest of the afternoon, and that didn't work out. So I got lucky on that 120. And then on day two, went to the same spot. Clutter was running late, but he eventually made it out. First thing in the morning, the bite was on fire. Like, it was on and off within like 20 minutes. As soon as line's in, I was getting bite after bite. I got my limit pretty quick. Lost another 20 plus first thing in the morning on a chatterbait right at the kayak. I went to pull up. It felt like it was on grass. And as soon as I pulled up, I felt them tug, and I tried to set the hook. She came up, shook, chatterbait went flying in the air. So that kind of like made my morning kind of rough. Like I laughed it off, but at the same time, I was mad at myself. So I just kind of grinded through the rest of the day and just kind of picked apart as much as I could. I didn't really leave that area, and because I felt like I was going to waste just too much time to run south or go try a different part of the lake. And I was hoping that the fish that I was on would refire back up once the weather was changing to the storms. And ended up with catching one last 17-inch fish, which I think helped me getting in fourth place.
You know what time you caught that fish?
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3:30 or not. No, it was like 3:15 or something like that.
You submitted that at 326.
Yes, yeah. It's
Yeah.
something really close.
That's last minute fish right there. That jump.
Yeah, and that's what kept me fishing around that spot, because it was a 17, and it was when I was unhooking the fish, it was peeing, like it was spawning. I was like, are these fish like spawning late? So I just like, as soon as I released them, I started casting in that same area again, see if I can find a bigger one. I was, kind of hanging around, and I just fished all the way till 3:30, and that's when the storms were coming in. Chris Clutter was staying with me, and so because I stayed till like 3:30 to try to catch that one fish, or if there was a fish there at all. Those storms came in pretty fast, and I didn't think they were coming in that fast. I thought we still had some time to make it across the lake, and by the time we got to the edge of the hydrilla going into the canals, that's when the storm just completely hit us like a brick wall, and there's lightning. It was, I think, in my opinion, it was like the funnest part of the trip. Clutter, he didn't think of it that way. He was cussing me out pretty much. Not really, but he wasn't happy. But we made it back. It was fine. We were just a little wet, and it was a fun 2 days.
Right, you got cooled off after those 2 long days in about a 20-minute time span.
Yeah, that felt so good. That rain felt so good.
Y'all came back and y'all were drenched in water. I wish that was me, because I was burning up. I was hot. So,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, Chris, congratulations on your 4th place finish. You were pretty consistent throughout the whole year, and we kind of didn't expect anything less from you than a top 5 finish. So congratulations on that. And next year, I know you're going to be going after that top spot. So good luck. Hopefully it all pans out for you next year, and you get yourself a championship from the club. So, all right,
He did get a new fishing rod and reel.
Oh, he did. Yeah, Chris Mitchell. For those of you that don't know, took home a brand new rod and reel, Barbie doll. You got it. You got it with you.
Yeah, I can go get it.
Yeah, go get it and show it to the viewers.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, we're going to talk to Chris Parker. I know you kind of talked a little bit about your day so far, but if you want, you can give us a little bit more detail or whatever you want.
All right. Apparently, my main road is a racetrack right now. It was just same thing, pretty much. Kind of plan. Like, found that plan during pre-fishing. Just we're gonna punch some mats in this. So 6:30 comes. I'm sitting on this mat, and 2 bass boats come racing over. They start yelling at. Like, they're within 6 feet of me. They start yelling at each other, trying to fight each other. I'm sitting here like, well, if we're gonna have some fun, I want to get in on this mix too. Like, you're more messing me up than you two. And it's just, so got away from there, luckily, because I would have spent hours in there. Got away from there, found another small clump, was throwing a speed worm, felt a bite, went to set it. Past couple times I've been losing mudfish and everything, so hooked into that 20.75, and actually she comes up, starts shaking her head. Oh boy, I think this could be a great start. Like, my bite never really started until almost like 9 o'clock anyway, but it did that. Decided that that's what we were going to do on the first day, was just throw at pads and punch and pitch pads. What was it then? Towards the end of it, it was probably like 2 o'clock. Caught another 20 3/4 where I pitched in there. I'm not getting anything. I see one of the pads shake. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. Did another 5 minutes of just jigging it around it. Go to pull it up, and this fish just comes straight out of the water. I get a look at it, kind of. Goes back down. I start flipping out because I was like, well, she's gone. I got nothing now. Like, get pissed off, start cussing and yelling out and like I'm a crazy person in the middle of this lake. It's like, well, doesn't look like it went anywhere. So I pitch back in there, feel the tap, go to set the hook. She gets wrapped around the lily pads there. And I could just see like a piece of white where I'm like, I look down, like I think about it for a second, like, God, I hope this isn't a mudfish when I stick my hand in her mouth. Stick it up, rip the pads out of the water. Yeah, there was that one. And after that, I think that was my 4th fish, and then just started for the rest of the day, started pitching pads there and caught, I think it was like a 15 or a 16. And I said to myself, like, once I get to 85 inches, I'm going in. So I started headed in. I saw Scott needed one more. So I was just kind of hanging out in the hydrilla there for as long as I could, not fishing, and started cussing him out like he's got me in this crazy field of just nonsense with all the hydrilla nets and all this. So I went on, and then Sunday came and went and tried to redo the same thing. I couldn't find hardly anything on the pad. So, and then I went to put my power pole up and it was broken. So I was just like, well, I guess we're going to live and die by the hydrilla. And I joined Scott. Like, I think I was 300 or 400 yards away from him. I joined him in the hydrilla for the rest of the day, swallowing gnats. And I don't know what I missed when I was in there, but I hooked into one that I went on a sled. Like, it was almost like I was offshore fishing. I set the hook and she must have, I had the drag I had the drag as tight as it could go. And I had to be going 4 or 5 miles an hour over this hydrilla until she finally spit it. But yeah, it was just pretty much, if I can pitch and punch all day, that's what I will do as long as there's fish there. And that's pretty much how I did it. So.
I think you're muted, Bailey.
Rookie mistake. Who's been muting my mic? I think I did. No, but that's awesome though that you were able to come out there and be consistent both of those days, because for 90% of the anglers, it was tough to get one fish in the boat. So for you guys to go out both days in those conditions and being able to put up, roughly in the 80 inches each day is pretty darn good based on some of the conditions. So yeah, that's awesome. All right. And congratulations again, Chris. You were finishing, you got third place, correct?
Second.
No, second place. Scott Gibbons got third place. So sorry. Yeah. So Chris Parker, you got second place. And you beat Scott Gibbons out by how many inches?
Quarter.
I'll let you rub it in.
1 quarter. 1/4 of an inch.
1/4 of an inch.
He called up. When I was only probably 50 yards from him when he was like, "That's a call, baby," and I knew how much he needed. I was like, as long as this thing's not like 14 and a half, we'll be fine. I looked at, like, I could just barely see it. Like, God, that thing's got to be 14 at least. Like, I think I'm gonna be sitting in third. And not to say that when I found out I was second, beating by that little bit, it felt good.
So I got a question for you guys. How was, because this is the first event that we did this, how was us turning the leaderboard off? Did that impact your guys' decisions, or did it add any extra, stress to that? Because we kind of want to know. It's the first event we did this year where we tried it, and we kind of want to get your guys' feedback on it. How did that change anything?
Didn't really,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Scotty.
I don't think it really made a difference to me. I kind of had before it shut off, I kind of knew where I was. So, after that, it just became a waiting game. So, and I wasn't expecting, being expected, but no, it worked out for me at least.
Okay. What about you, Sherman? How did that impact you? Did you think that you hold on, I'm going to unmute you. I don't know why it's not letting me. There you go. So Sherman, what about you? How did you feel? I know you knew you had 100 and something inches, so I don't think you were probably too worried about that. But what about the guys chasing you?
No, I really wasn't. When I fish a tournament, I really don't leaderboard watch anyway. I'm just more concerned with fishing against myself. So I honestly didn't even notice it was turned off, to be honest. So it didn't affect my mindset or the way I fished at all.
Awesome. Yeah, I was curious about that. I know we talked about it. We're like, well, we'll turn it off and just kind of have that surprise factor for those that, kind of are in that top 5 when they get there. Maybe they're surprised or maybe they already knew. But I think it added a little bit of suspense. I know Buzz and a bunch of folks were watching it back home and members that couldn't come out there and participate. So from that perspective, it is kind of tough. But I'm glad that we did it too, because I like that when you guys come up there and we're able to kind of introduce, and kind of let you guys know who it was, seeing that expression that you guys have on your face is like, oh, dang, that's awesome, So I'm glad that it didn't impact you guys too much because I was kind of worried about that.
I mean, I would have been fired up. Like I did the math, like 3 hours to go, where I'm like, all right, 20 inches behind him, and I've got a 12 and I've got a 13. I can call those. They should be no problem to call it. Like if I would have ended up calling and then saw he put that 26 3/4 up or whatever it was, I don't even think I would have stayed for the awards. I'd have just went home like this is how this world worked for me.
Right.
But-
Yeah. So because our kind of feedback or our kind of thing on it is like we knock it off, and the people who are kind of in that top 5, it kind of encourages everyone to kind of come to that and kind of see,
Yeah.
what it was, because for some people they kind of get discouraged from it and they're like, oh, well, there's no reason even showing up. So it worked out for us because I think that's the most people we've ever had at a award ceremony, and I like to think that's not just because we're giving away a bunch of free stuff. But also kind of that element of surprise on who finished where. So, okay, awesome. Well, now we got Mr. Scott. We're going to ask you a little bit. I know you kind of already talked. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that before we get back into Sherman?
As far as like how they went, or what?
Yeah. But what your expectations were? Did you meet your expectations or did you fall short?
I met my expectations Sunday. Saturday, I thought I didn't think it was going to take me all day to get. I thought I would have because I kind of used the a little bit. Chris does too, a little. But the bite window was early, 6:30 to 8:30 on both days. So I was hoping to just, bang out my limit and just go from there. But I don't know. It just works out the way it is. So.
Awesome. Well, for Scott, man, one thing that we all know about Scott is you're consistent. You've been consistent all year. When the events that you do come out and fish, you're up there, right? And that's noticeable. It's from me, Sean, Chris. I mean, you can look at the leaderboard and seeing your name up there. None of us are shocked. So we're extremely
higher.
Huh?
I just want to see it a little bit higher.
It'll get there. It'll happen. That day will come to where you're going to walk away, and it's going to be that breakthrough season where you cash more than just second or third place checks. You're going to get up there and start cashing those first place. That's just how the game goes, and it doesn't help whenever we have some of the top anglers in kayak bass fishing each in our event, so it makes it that much harder, but it makes us that much better competing against these guys on the regular basis. So. It'll happen. And hopefully you're going to come out and fish some of those fun fishing events with us on the off season too. So
I'm totally happy finishing where I am this year. It's been above my expectations, my personal expectations. I just go out there, if I catch fish, if I do good, hey, that's even better.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you for coming out this year and being consistent in the regular season events, but also coming out and cashing a good check at the championship. So congratulations on that and your finish.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. And now, last but not least, Sherman, you already kind of talked about your day 1 and day 2, but the one thing we didn't talk about is your big fish.
Right.
So you ain't got to tell us what you caught it on or any of that, but we are going to showcase this fish here on the screen here in a minute, so everybody at home can see the monster of a bass that you did catch, and kind of tell us what was going through your mind when you hooked into it and all that. So,
all right. Well, like I said, with my day 1 and day 2, stuff, I didn't really have any knowledge of the lake. So when I was able to put up my limit on Sunday as quickly as I was in the morning time and taking advantage of that bite, and the limit was the way it was, I really didn't know how I was going to upgrade. I didn't really know any kind of areas to scout to look for big fish. So it actually came down back to one of those little things that you just see, and and you think about, and it actually goes back to trophy catch. So all year long, you see that Orange Lake's been on fire, dropping 13-pound fish, and it's always on trophy catch. So I always see the post come up on Facebook, and I look at it, and the last two that I've read both said that they came out of the pads. So I thought to myself, I'm like, Scott had been around, or Chris had been around that pad field the day before, and I watched him around the pad field meticulously picking it apart. And I thought he had 2 over 20. I'm like, maybe there's an upgrade in the pads from everything that I was piecing together. And there happened to be a couple set of pads beside where I was fishing at, and it caught those fish. And I looked beside those pad fields, which had been full of bluegill anglers all day, little John boats sitting on top of them almost all day. But when I circled back around to see if the area had reloaded, all the boats were gone. Everything was empty. So I went and I fished the area I had fished earlier, and I was catching smaller fish again, some 12s and 14s, and nothing that was going to help me. And I glanced by the pads, and I seen a few little sprigs where the John boat had been sitting. And I thought, I haven't fished really there yet. So I threw over to there because it was right beside the pad, but not in the pads. And I just took a chance, and I threw to one, there was nothing. I threw to another one, nothing. And I was kind of getting discouraged, but I threw to the very last one on the point of the pads, and that was it. I mean, I just felt a little tap, and I had just got done catching a 14-inch fish, and it felt the same. So I just half-heartedly set the hook. But when I half-heartedly set the hook, the head come out of the water, and the head shook. And I just kind of sat in my kayak in disbelief, like, what was that? Like, I didn't really comprehend what that was because it didn't look like a bass. I mean, it was literally, the head was massive. It did not look like a bass to me. And at that point, I think my mind had a heart attack and the adrenaline revived me because I came to my senses and I felt the pull. And that one pull in the beginning is all it really did. It was kind of not an exciting fight at all. She just kind of swam to me. There was no diving under the kayak, no big pulls, no runs, no nothing really. It was kind of lethargic, like it just wanted to go in the net. But I myself couldn't get it in the net because it didn't fit. And I got a big Yak Attack leverage net, and I had 3 tries trying to get it in the net. And the whole time I'm like talking out loud, like I'm almost screaming to myself, like, please just don't lose this fish. It would be awful to have that memory of losing that thing. And once I got it in the net, I sat there shaking. it was a moment I'll probably never forget. Just looking at the size of the picture doesn't do that fish justice at all. I mean, seeing it sit in your lap it looks twice the size in person from what it looks like on that picture.
Well, that's why I put in the comments, that's a 32-inch board. When I looked at it, I'm like, I thought you made a mistake because I can, as the tournament director, I could see the leaderboard, and I saw where you were at in the 90s, and then I was like, 102. I'm like, what in the heck? I'm like, what did he do to get to 102? Was he just holding fish? And I clicked on your name, and it said 26.5, and I'm like, it didn't register with me. I was like, what? I was like, how does that get him to 102? And I was like, oh, 26-inch bass and 26.5-inch bass. And I clicked on it, and you're using a 32-inch board. So when you looking at it in that perspective, it didn't look like it was that big. And then I zoomed in, and I was just like, I had a heart attack for you. I was sitting there, I was like, oh my God.
Well,
I was like, that is awesome.
The heart attack honestly was worse because when I had it in front of me, my first thought process is just don't flop this board. Please don't flop off the board. I have to get a picture. And I put it on the board, and the way my Old Town sits, I sit the board inside of it, so it sits at a hard angle, and I keep my net there just in case. And the Old Towns are deep, so they're not like a little kayak with a little 3-inch edgers on them like some have. It has more of like a 6 to 8-inch deep trough inside where your feet are. But I put her on there, and I went to take the picture like I normally do, and I put it back in the net, and I got it in the water, and I looked at my phone, and I had a picture of the head. And I thought, oh no, that's not going to work. So I put the fish back on the board, and I held the phone up as high as I could over my head, and I snapped a series of pictures, and I put it back in the net in the water, and I looked at the phone, and I had a picture from the gill plate to the tail. And I thought, this isn't going to work. I can't just put these pictures together. I said, how am I going to get a picture of this whole fish? I said, I can't get a picture of the fish. And my mind's racing as far as get her back in the water. You know, you want it healthy. But at the same time, I want this picture. I put it back on the board, and as soon as it touched the board, it board flopped. And I thought, oh no. So I just dove in the bottom of my kayak with the fish, and I was bear hugging it like, please don't go anywhere. Just don't go anywhere. And I got a hold of her mouth, and I put it back on the board, and I had to actually stand up most of the way to get the picture that I took. I could not get it sitting down, even holding the camera over my head. It just, I have so many pictures on my phone of just tail and head and middle of the body.
Little tip for you, in case if this happens ever again, if you're using an iPhone, you can actually change to a lower setting where it will get a longer zoom of the picture so that it will zoom out instead of zoom in.
Jason Denise actually showed me that at the boat ramp when we were loading up, because I was telling him how hard it was to get the picture of it, and he took my phone and showed me. And of course, like I said, I'm not technology smart too much, but yeah, that was something I wish I would have known an hour earlier.
That's awesome fish. I do have a question for you, Sherman. Could you tell if that fish has been caught before or not?
I couldn't really see any. There wasn't any holes in the lips or anything like that. I didn't see any kind of war wounds to say on her body or anything else, like she had been put in a live well or banged around, or it just looked like a good, healthy fish. And
that fish looked very healthy.
The best part of it all to me was when I released her. She did one of the half back flips and Shamu splashed me. So that was the best feeling, knowing that I released her and she was still full of energy. So,
especially after you bear hugged her.
That was, oh man, I think I had 2 or 3 heart attacks during that bear hug.
Don't wash that shirt, Sherman. You got to keep that shirt and put it in a like a picture frame.
Right.
So that's a fish of a lifetime. And we said on our captain's meeting that someone was going to catch a fish of a lifetime. And it just happened to be you, man, and it couldn't happen to a better person. So, yeah, congrats on that 26.5-inch fish. So, definitely. Thank you guys for coming on as well. Sean, Chris, Mitchell, Chris Parker, Scott Gibbons, and Sherman. We appreciate your guys' support coming out and fishing in the club. And ultimately you guys are the top 5 walked away. So first place in this event walked away with $1,000. So Sherman, $1,000 cash and $300 with big bass, and a catch trophy board. So congratulations there. Second place walked away with $600 cash, a catch board, and some cool little checks. And then third place was $400 with a nice little FKBT check. And then fourth and fifth place, they went home with a check and a Dakota Lithium battery. So, you guys definitely put in the work and earned every single dollar. So, congratulations on that. And we're looking forward to next year's championship already. And you guys think it should be back on Orange Lake?
Of course.
No.
I mean, when I started, I didn't like it, but yeah, now I like it. We can do that again.
I think only 5 of you would say that. The rest of us would say absolutely not.
Well, we should be the only ones getting the vote.
Hey, I'm telling you right now, I had a much better second day. I think I had 85 1/4. First day I couldn't catch water if I fell off the boat. So, and to be fair, y'all can talk to the other guys. I was contemplating not even going out on the water on the second day because I didn't want to get into any of your guys' water and catch any fish. But and that might have been a lot of other anglers in our club that were probably contemplating going out that second day and based off the day one. But for those of you that might have had those same thoughts that I had, but still came out and fished that second day. Yeah, that's awesome. Some days you might doubt yourself, and other days it might turn around and you might be able to put together a bag of a lifetime. So even though 85 inches wasn't the bag of my lifetime, I'm glad that I went out there and stuck it out. And we're glad that the other anglers went out there and stuck it out on those tough conditions. So it speaks a lot. Amy Brown said maybe put all the lakes in a bag and draw one after the last regular season event. Yeah, we're going to take feedback on how we are going to select next year's championship. We're definitely not going to release it as early as we did this year. It's definitely going to be done a little bit differently. But we got some good feedback from you guys about a week or two ago. And we're definitely talking and putting that into action. So yeah, I don't want to keep you guys on here much longer. It's already at that 55-minute mark. Scott, Chris, and I'm going to call you C Squared, Chris Mitchell and Chris Parker, and Sherman. Thank you guys for coming out again. Congratulations on a top 5 finish in our first Florida Kayak Bass Trail Championship. Chris
And
Mitchell
there's
is
the
holding up
pole.
his new rod and reel that he got. It's the Barbie rod. He will fish one event with that rod next year.
I want to see just a YouTube video of Jim fishing just the Barbie. See how many fish you can catch on the Barbie pole. That would
Mitchell,
be cool.
So Mitchell's going to be going through something then this Friday, and he won't be able to fish for a little bit. But when you get back on the water, Mitchell, we'll have to go do a video on it.
All right, sounds good to me.
All right,
It's gonna be the next weekend Talking Trail challenge.
Do I have to use this like 6-pound line?
No, you can replace
you
it.
can
Put some
change the
braid
line.
on it. But no, thank you guys for coming out and talking with us and kind of sharing your experiences on Orange Lake. If you guys want, you can stay on. We're going to talk a little bit more about some stuff about the off season and what that kind of looks like in next year's registration. But if you guys want to hop off, you guys can hop off and just kind of watch, and we'll wrap up this live stream.
Okay. Thanks for having me on, or having us on, actually. So, and yeah, it was a fun championship for the first one.
Oh,
so
yeah.
keep it up, guys.
Someone say something?
Yeah, I just said something.
Mitch, I didn't hear you, Mitchell.
Bye.
Bye, Mitchell. Now, appreciate you guys, and we'll bring you guys on and talk to you guys again a little bit more in the off season as well. So, congrats.
Yep. Thank you, guys. You guys did awesome, man. That was a lot of fun this year.
Oh, thank you guys.
Work too.
Thanks, guys. All right. That was awesome. A good championship wrap up. There's a couple more things that we'd like to hit again before we do end this and kind of give you guys insight on what's to come since we are officially in the off season. So again, congratulations to all top 5 anglers, even top 10, top 17. Thank you guys for coming out and supporting the club. We had an amazing award ceremony. So for those of you that don't know, we gave away over $6,500 in cash and prizes. That's right. Yes, $6,500 in cash prizes and so on. So that's awesome for our first year. That's including the Van Hunks kayak that Angler of the Year Thomas Woodring is taking home, and prizes and things that go along with that. So we couldn't do that without our sponsors. We couldn't do that without our members. So again, we thank you guys for that. There's 2 things that we forgot to give away at the championship, but we did it in a manner that we kind of came up and we're like, hey, we're going to kind of do it at random. So what we're going to do is, I don't know if we have that random wheel generated with names, do we? So what we're going to do, and we might not be able to do it. Huh?
Give me a sec. I'll try and get it up.
Okay. You're going to have to add quite a few names to it though. So will it take you a while?
What names are we adding?
All the members. So I think, so 7 for 1, and then all them anglers. So what we'll do is we can do the 7 for the KBF lifetime membership, the 7 people who contributed to. So KBF, Chad Hoover donated a lifetime membership, which is $600 worth or $600 value. And then he also donated $250 KBF bucks that we're going to give away. The $600 lifetime membership is going to go to someone who participated in all 7 events of the regular season, who benefited or who contributed to that. And the $250 is going to go to some lucky member or just anybody who fished at least one event in the KBF or in the Florida Kayak Bass Trail. So we'll go ahead and announce the lucky winner for the top 7 tonight. And then we'll post on our members only page the lucky winner once we spin the wheel for the 250.
Yeah, so for you want to do I think it's 7 members who fished every single event.
Yes, Todd, do you have those written down?
Yeah, it's Amy.
Hold on.
I had them written down somewhere. Let's see if I remember this. Amy Brown, David Myers.
Yep.
Thomas Woodring.
Thomas Woodring. It's Chris Bailey, Sean Spears, myself, and was it Nathaniel Holly?
Nathaniel Holly. And then, hey, if you're on here, if you say that you fished all the regular season events, drop your name in the comment section below if we missed you, and we'll wait a couple minutes before we spin the wheel. But yeah, I believe there was 7. We had them written down somewhere.
Yeah, we went through the whole thing and checked it all out to make sure.
Yeah. So we'll wait for someone to comment on the comment
I got
section below.
6 names. Who'd you say? Amy, David, Thomas, Chris, Todd, Nathaniel. Oh, myself.
Yourself.
I don't know why it says. Hold on. Edit title, description. What is this? The lifetime membership?
Yes.
Yep. And next year we're going to do the same thing. We're going to raffle off another large prize to whoever your name will get added to the wheel, and whoever fishes each of the events is going to get thrown into that, and you're going to win whatever prize that is allocated for you for that year. But each year we are going to give away something similar to kind of help promote you that regular season attendance as well. So
let me share my screen. Share screen. Let's see.
Fingers crossed, who's going to win it? This is completely random.
Can you guys see that?
I see a wheel spinning. Oh, there we go.
Hey, tell me when to stop shuffling.
Someone say stop in the chat below and we'll stop.
I'm just shuffling the names.
Okay. All right. Spin the wheel.
Spin it.
Spin
you ready
it.
for me to click to spin?
Yeah, spin it. Spin it. Yep. Click. Spin it.
Oh. Todd, you want to spin it again?
Spinner again.
All right. Let's pass. We're going to pass it.
Spinner again, Todd. Oh. Chris Bailey?
Spin it again. Just take my name off of it.
This is.
Is this rigged? Is this rigged? If it lands on my name again, I'll take it.
There we go. Thomas Woodring.
If it lands
Thomas Woodering's the winner. You muted yourself, Bailey.
I can say give it to Amy. Okay. We will talk to Thomas and ask him if he wants to accept the random spinning wheel of death for the 600 for that angler or KBF lifetime membership. And if he does want to pass it along, we will respin the wheel for next year, or respin the wheel for on the next live, not next year, on the next live show. So yeah, Thomas
Yeah, and
Woodring. Say that again.
I'll get our list and copy and paste it all in there before we go live next time for the $250. So.
Yep. Yeah. So
cash.
we'll do the $250 KBF Bucks giveaway on our next live show where we go over a lot of what's to come, what's to look ahead for the trail for next year. We're gonna take the rest of this month off for June, and then July. We are going to open up on July 1st is going to be the start of the 30-day or the monthly long challenge, Florida Kayak Bass Trail Challenge. It's going to work and operate just like the KBF monthlies do, but it's going to be an open. So anybody who wants to participate in or shows interest in becoming a member of the club, this is their opportunity to join and not being a member. You do not have to be a member to participate in these monthly events. We're going to try it and see what kind of participation we get on it. If there's a lot of participation and you guys want to continue to do it, we will continue to do it. It's a $30 fee, and there's going to be no big bass. It's just going to be a $30, and so you're going to be your best 10, not your best 5, but your best 10 cumulative. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun little thing that we'll do, and we'll announce the winner at the on the first Tuesday of every month is how we'll kind of do that. We'll bring them on and kind of showcase them and we'll work on doing that and kind of how that's going to work. We'll work out the fine details, but that will be July 1st is when we're going to start the KBF monthly or the Florida Kayak Bass Trail monthly.
I say you could do your best 9 bass and 1 mudfish.
Ooh. Well, I don't fish for the mudfish, so that count me out on that one.
I don't fish for them either, but I catch them.
I can tell you where you can catch some big ones at Orange Lake.
Yeah. So that's to come. We are gonna that's gonna be our first like open style event. And if you guys want to host like a weekly event, or you guys want to host like a boat ramp beatdown somewhere during our off seasons, use our members only platform or our public Facebook page to kind of showcase that. You put it on there. I know John Fennell just posted something on our members only page about a tournament that he's trying to put together for him and some of his buddies and trying to get some of us involved. So you guys can go out and participate with that. But that's the kind of stuff we want you guys to get together. It takes you guys and us spreading the word of our club to get more people to participate. So next year, our goal as a club is to break that 100 member mark. And that's going to take all of us putting in the effort and the work to kind of spread the word of our club. I think alone what we did this year has done quite a bit on adding some new members to our club. But for us to get more female anglers involved, that is probably one of the biggest things we're going to try to do in this off season is trying to figure out how we can get after getting more female anglers involved to where we can kind of not necessarily have an own division, but just kind of, highlight that women can come out here and can compete as well. Amy Brown and Wendy, and then Julia this year, before she moved to Georgia, came out and they were competing with the best of us. And that can go, there's no reason why they can't come out here and win, events. So fishing in Florida, anybody can go out there at any given time and put together over 100-inch bag. And also speaking about that, Chris Sherman has joined Todd in the ranks of the 100-inch club. So they're going to be getting stickers to put on their kayak that represent that 100-inch club. So that's something, if you guys can do that, we're going to highlight you guys in that way as well. So, but yeah, that's all we have right now. We are going to do a live broadcast here in the next week. Where we are going to start drawing for the schedule, the lakes for the schedule. We won't necessarily put dates to the lakes yet, but we are going to draw the lakes that we are going to be fishing. A lot of research and time gets put into when we fish these lakes because we want to fish them when they're on fire or when they are historically known to produce good fish. So that'll take a little bit more time. And what did Chris say? Do you have to register before the 1st? So we are going to allow you to registration is going to be open up until the last week of the month. So you don't have to register on the 1st. We do the last week just so that if you decide to register, that money hits the bank account to where we can actually pay that angler out, whoever does win first place, in a timely manner. So that's why we close it out that week in advance.
But we will check when you registered up against the timestamps of the fish that were submitted.
Yes, and the QR code. So you should not be using the QR code, because the QR code is going to be, once you register, you get it. But if you go and look on Fishing Chaos and you see the code and you try to do that, just know that we do look at the timestamps on when it's registered and when the fish is submitted. So, yeah, good, Todd. Thanks for bringing up that point. Please don't schedule them around cold fronts. Unfortunately, Scott, we cannot control the weather, but we will do our best at this. So for you guys to kind of get when our season's going to kick off, we are planning on starting the trail this coming year in October. Okay, that is a month sooner than what we did this year. But our goal is to start the trail in October and go through May to June. And that depends on if we're going to do a couple events or if we double up months and run multiple events. But we are trying to do some events with the Central Florida Bass Nation Trail as well. So that might eliminate the need for an additional event. But there's going to be a lot to come here in the next month on registration when it opens. And the tournaments or the lakes, all that stuff we're gonna spend this next week or two finalizing all the fine details, and then we're going to push it out to you guys once it's all ironed out and everything is good to go. But we're looking forward to next year. Todd, Sean, what you guys want to add before, so I can shut up?
Yeah, when we do the lake selection, we'll probably. Are you super delayed, Bailey?
Probably.
It's like when you talk sometimes and you can't hear it. No, but we'll probably go live for the lake selection when we start to figure that all out. We already have all the lakes compiled from what you guys put in and everything laid out in Excel format, and we'll probably do a live show for that. But like Bailey said, we're not gonna release the championship location. And I don't know if you want to talk something along the lines of an AOI event during the season. So
yeah, so we all talked, and we're trying to think of a way to boost turnouts, regular season event turnouts. That means people more than the 20 to 30 that we have. What we're trying to think of ways that we can, encourage people to want to come out and fish regularly on the trail. One of that is making AOI qualifications a little bit more stricter, right? So instead of 3 events, based on our regular season events, we're going to release what that number is going to look like for next year in regards to how many events, regular season events, you're going to have to fish to qualify for Angler of the Year. But for those, we're looking at kind of like in baseball, you have an all-star break. And the reason why we're starting in October is so that we can potentially have a break in the season. And that month break is going to be where we compile, either the top 10, top 15, or top 20 anglers that are in the Angler of the Year points, the top 10, top 15, or top 20. We haven't decided on that number yet, but we're going to host a tournament that those those in the top 20 are going to go head to head. And then that head to head, whoever wins that or where they fall at is going to determine, kind of have a say in the championship lake. So, and where it kind of get fished, location, so on and so forth. We haven't ironed out those details, but do know we are going to do something special in the middle of the season for the top 20 or the top 25 in Angler of the Year points. So more to come on that, but we're trying to boost that as well as championship. To qualify for the championship is going to be a lot stricter, and make it a little bit more competitive in a sense to making it to that championship, and it's not going to be an open, and it's not going to be if you fish one event, you can come and participate. And we're going to kind of see that's pretty consistent feedback that we got from everybody when we asked on that Facebook post. So we're taking that feedback and we're going to run with it, and we're going to make it something that you guys want to fish, and something that it's going to be a little bit harder to kind of claim that title for next year. So, yep. Thanks, Sean, for bringing that up. Todd,
Yeah.
What you want to add to that?
Ditto to all that. I just want to thank everybody for a great season that we had. Just the character of all the anglers that fished our events are tremendous. You couldn't ask for a better season with no conflict or anything like that. So I'm just grateful for that. Makes our job a whole lot easier. And, shout out to all of our great sponsors that we had this year. And, they allowed us to have some really good prizes for the championship to give away and all throughout the year. And we really do appreciate all of our sponsors.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, fantastic. Again, this trail this year was ran on literally no drama. And that's something that we all like to see. At least there wasn't any of that drama that was brought to our attention. And what little there was able to be kind of solved at the lowest level. So, yeah, Todd, thanks for pointing that out again. You guys, the members, are what makes this club. And I think we have one of the best kayak bass fishing clubs in the state as far as the members. But you guys are also members of other clubs. And you two there making those clubs great. So keep doing what you're doing. We're looking forward to next year, and more to come on a lot to follow next year. And more, I'm going to make a post on when registration is going to open up for on Fishing Chaos or Tourney X, whichever route we decide to go. We're going to talk about that a little bit more on kind of where we're going to go for next year. But I have a meeting with the Fishing Chaos folks tomorrow on some other things, on some feedback that we have on on potentially what can be done better for next year, if that's the route that we are deciding to go. So just stay tuned on that. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in and paying attention. I think we have 11 folks on here still watching. So thank you guys for watching. And for those of you that are going to watch on a later date, if you're interested in becoming a member of the Florida Kayak Bass Trail, you can reach out to myself, Sean, or Todd here, or even Chris Clutter. Our information can be found on Facebook by searching Florida Kayak Bass Trail. And once you become a member, you'll be added to the Florida Kayak Bass Trail members only page, to where you get access to all the exclusive discounts. But if you're interested and you're not a member, drop a comment here on the comment section or reach out to us on Facebook Messenger. And we'd love to get in contact with you and answer any questions that you may have about the club. So thank you again. Thank you guys for watching. Looking forward to seeing you guys out on the water again soon. And yeah, thanks, guys. That's all I got.
Thank you all.
Yep.